All right. Hello again. I was told that there was a technical problem, so people couldn't see me or hear me. Yulia, can you hear and see me now? No sound, no video. Okay, people keep saying hello. You see the cover page. So nothing happens. Okay, I have some pluses, which means you can see me. Great, makes my life much easier now. Yes, great. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. That a lot of problems that we might face while teaching online, and this is one of them. Yeah, when there's a sound failure or the system failure, and we only can see some pictures, or sometimes even we see nothing, just black screen. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about some plan B, which we can plan when we're thinking about our lesson, so we can do it in advance, and some activities that we can do in advance. Yeah, so unfortunately we are all now in this situation of, I don't know, crisis and lockdown, when we always have different troubles with our internet connection. Yeah, as I've already mentioned, I don't know whether you've heard it or not, I'm going to repeat it again. So my name is Kiseleva Evgenia, and I'm Cambridge Assessment English methodologist. And we are going to talk about online teaching, and we're going to talk about having a plan B. And there is one more thing that I would like to remind you, that there is a lot going on, so a lot of different conferences, webinars with Cambridge Assessment English, and due to some system failures, unfortunately, you might have some, you might, probably you didn't get some videos from the previous webinars, so keep calm, and you're going to get them soon, just because there's a bit of an overload. So Cambridge remembers about you, and just everything's going to be fine. Right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about lesson planning, and we will have an overview of problems that we might have during this process. We're going to talk about some life hacks that I personally use for my online teaching. I've been teaching online for more than 2 years already. I can't say that I'm a huge professional in this sphere, but at least I know what problems might occur, and I have my life hacks how to deal with them. So we're also going to talk about possible activities that can be used in Zoom, because Zoom is now probably one of the most popular platforms for teaching online. And I know that we are all trying to master a variety of tools and instruments, some applications for online teaching. And we're trying to incorporate them into the platform, but there are some cases when they don't work, and unfortunately, even though a lot of different tools exist, we need to sometimes limit ourselves into Zoom platform only and try to get the best out of it. And because I just can't help mentioning about it, so we're going to talk about some ideas to reduce the stress level. Just because we know that the situation is really stressful at the moment, and such system failures, just like the one I had a couple of minutes ago, they are really stressful, and for me too. So we'll talk about how to reduce this stress level and how to relax a little bit. So let's start, and let's talk about some challenges that we face during our emergency distance learning. And why is it emergency distance learning? Because if we talk about learning online and distance learning, so usually we mean a well-developed system when we have our lessons, we have the whole course planned online with feedback, with different platforms, with some tasks incorporated into a platform like, I don't know, Schoology, Moodle, some platforms like that. And unfortunately, nowadays, what we are doing is not really distance learning. It's like, I really love the term emergency distance learning, so we just don't have any other choice. So we can try to do the best with what's given. And ideally, yeah, the course should be developed and the course should be planned differently. But we are just trying to put our offline learning and to somehow apply the technologies that we are aware of. So what challenges do we face? Technology, yes, we already witnessed that. We can have problems with communication, and when I mean problems with communication, we all know that online learning can be rather challenging for kids, for example, for both the students and the teacher, can be challenging for teenagers due to different classroom regulations, classroom management failures, and we lose our students because it's difficult to focus, it's difficult to pay attention all the time, right? And this is one of the reasons why our teaching, why our dynamics of our lesson suffers a lot. And also, as a result of technological failures, as a result of communication breakdowns, we have problems with motivation. And I know this from my personal experience as a student, that my motivation to study online is seriously affected by these factors. So we need, as teachers, when we are planning our lessons, we need to think about how to reduce these outcomes of technological failures, for example. And that's also something we are going to talk about today. I firmly believe that we as teachers are superheroes, so we can do basically anything. Even if we don't know how to cope with some tools and some technology, we still know methodology and we still can apply it. And the first thing that we need to do would be proper planning. And I believe that at this stage, at this planning stage, we can somehow predict what might go wrong and what we can do with that. So we anticipate some problems and we find appropriate solutions to them. So the first thing we're going to talk about, yeah, so technology, what might go wrong, by the way, yeah. So we're going to think about all these problems. Sound failure, system failure, too many applications when we're trying to include a lot of tools into the lesson and they just don't work, or unfortunately our internet doesn't allow us to use them, or our students' internet doesn't allow them to use it. And another factor that's also about technology, that it is too noisy sometimes. Yeah, we have a lot of noises around, our students too. For example, yesterday my cat started snoring right in the middle of the lesson, and that was quite embarrassing, to be honest. So the same thing happens to our students. So the very first piece of advice that I would like to mention is to ask them to mute their microphones at the very beginning of the lesson and only turn it on when you're asking something or when they are discussing something with each other. So let's talk about planning. And when we're planning an offline lesson, we bear in mind a variety of factors, we bear in mind a variety of points that we need to cover and that we need to think about properly. So what do you include in your plan? What are the usual points that are in your offline plans? Could you please share? Maybe there is something I haven't thought about. So what do you usually include in your lesson plans? Warmer, homework checking, warm up, good. Pictures, okay. Lead in, super. Nice. So you all started aims and goals, good. Coolers, schemes, shake break. Ooh, I love it. Warmer, lovely, production. So a lot of different factors. Icebreakers, feedback. Oh, thank you very much for feedback. Not everybody does that. And problems, anticipated problems. Yes, absolutely. All right. So what do I usually include? Flashcards, memory games, so different types of activities. Yeah. What do I usually include in my lesson planning? So that would be aims and goals, as we've already mentioned. So we need to know why we're doing that. I also have outcomes here. Yeah, so things, so I have my aim, I have my outcome. So I think of what the students will be able to do after the lesson. Yeah, I include the procedure, and to be honest, I don't write it. I don't write a very detailed procedure, but now when I have too many online lessons, I write it more detailed, to be honest, just to be sure that I remember everything. What else? So we need to plan our board work. Yeah, in our case, the whiteboard work in Zoom, for example, we need to think about where things are going to be on our board. Yeah, how we are going to structure that. We think about group dynamics, because we need to plan not just for one lesson, but to plan ahead for some lessons, right? So I think about materials. So something you've already mentioned, like some flashcards, pictures. Of course, I need to think about my course book. Yeah, definitely. And I need to know what to take from the course book. So I need to think about assumptions. So what do I already know about the group? If it's offline teaching, yeah, what do I know about their level? What do I know about their character? What do I know about their abilities? So are they extroverts or introverts? How to group them? And that leads me to interaction patterns. So I need to plan who's going to talk to whom, and just not to pair up students with two different levels, for example, or students who don't like each other. Yeah, if we speak about groups, yeah, big groups. So and also I need to think about anticipated problems and solutions, and that's at the moment, I guess, it's one of the most urgent and important things to plan, because, and we move on to the online teaching, because when we think about anticipated problems during an online lesson, we need to think about devices and internet connection. So what do our students use for communication? Why is this part important? Again, even if we use one platform like Zoom, Skype, Google Meets, don't know, WhatsApp, I don't know what you use, but all these platforms have some system requirements, and we need to know what our students are using, because we need to know what opportunities they have. So for example, in Zoom, my students, if they are having a lesson from the telephone, they can't comment on my whiteboard, for example. They can only sometimes draw things, and it doesn't work from all the telephones or all the tablets. Yeah, so this is something we need to bear in mind, because if I ask, and I've had this problem many times, to be honest, even though I try to pre-plan it, I keep forgetting. It happens. It's absolutely normal, I guess. But sometimes I ask them to do something. Okay, now you need to type the word here, and my students get absolutely lost. Like, how can I do that? Even if I give them some instruction, they just don't have the exact buttons. So this is something to bear in mind. And this is something to bear in mind while you're planning the interaction patterns. So for example, you can put people into teams. You know, one person is using a telephone, another person is from his laptop. So pair them up, and they can work together. So one of them will, I don't know, type in the chat, because chat is accessible in all versions, or somehow, I don't know, use WhatsApp. They can work together. They can answer the questions together. Internet connection is the same thing, which is has a great influence on the quality of communication. And it's, again, not only for the students, but for us as teachers, because sometimes different applications can take too much power of our internet, and we just can't stop them. So this also happens. Digital literacy, yeah, I'm going to talk about it a bit later. We need to think about materials and applications that we are using during our lesson, about interaction patterns, and I can't, yeah, Quizlet, and I can't emphasize that more, because interaction patterns is one of the most important things for online teaching. I'll explain why later. So we need to think about access to homework and materials. We must think about physical activity, because especially now during the lockdown, we lack physical activity, and especially when students have like an hour and a half of studying and a lot of lessons before that, they need to exercise a little, and it really helps because they can somehow refresh their brain, and they can have a fresh start. And we need to have a plan B, so some activities that will always work and that we can give our students no matter what internet connection, no matter what problems we have. How to allow students recording with breakout rooms. Okay, if you have some questions, we will go back to that later, okay? If you have some questions, it's better to write your questions in the question section in the special chat for that, because I might lose that in the usual chat, okay? And we will have some questions and answers closer to the end. Right. So speaking about digital literacy, so that's one of the points. Yeah. So digital literacy, not everybody knows how to use that. Not all teachers know how to use that, and we are thrown into this absolutely new reality when we have to, which we have to deal with. So I would suggest choosing one platform or application and write an instruction, probably in Russian, and an instruction that their parents can read, because very often parents don't know that too. Again, know this from my personal experience from parents' chats from school, where there are 30 people who are absolutely lost with this technology. So a very detailed instruction. If you want your students to use some applications, like Google Docs, for example, ask them to install this application and register beforehand. Don't do it during the lesson. It will take too much time. You will lose the dynamics. Again, I can't emphasize that more. Do not use too many applications. One, maybe two. That's more than enough. If you use different websites like Word Wall or some word clouds, one or two is more than enough, because they will get lost. It will take too much time to switch from one to another, and you have more chances for the for some issues, for some problems. Yeah, I can see that. You teach your students beforehand. Absolutely. Yes, I completely, I can't agree more, to be honest. And I teach my students with their parents, so we have sessions when we do it together, and they try to press some buttons, and this is the moment when I figure out what kind of device they're using. It's a bit more difficult with groups, but we can still try to do it. So individually, it certainly works better. Yeah, and another thing, so when you have some conferences, I don't know, it is probably an obvious thing, but I know that people struggle with that. Create recurring conferences with the same password for each group. Don't send them a new password and a new conference number every time. That is confusing, and they will be late, definitely, just because they will trying to find which number is the one for today. So when you're planning your materials and applications, choose one platform. Yeah, it's up to you. I prefer Zoom and Google Classroom partially, so I have a combination of that. Choose one and then try to master it. Yeah, so try to use all the opportunities it provides. Don't use many. Don't try to to master as many as you can within this limited period of time, just because it's more stressful for you also. And when you know how to use it, you're of course more confident, and your students feel less stressed. Yes, problems with young newlings, they can't use computers. Parents. Yeah, this is the only solution to this problem. So I ask my parents, my students' parents, to be present at the lesson and to help their children, I don't know, to learn together sometimes as some kind of a bonus. Well, speaking about applications, again, one or two. One or two applications would be enough. Yeah. So make sure that these applications don't require a perfect connection. Interaction patterns, have already mentioned that. So just some more detailed overview of that. Make sure that you pair up students, if we speak about breakout rooms. Okay, yeah. See the comments about 2+ children. Yes, you're absolutely right. But well, there's nothing we can do as parents, unfortunately. As teachers. So we can try. We can do our best. So interaction patterns. If you put students into breakout rooms, make sure they both, if it's 2 or 3, that they have the same quality of internet connection and sound, and ideally they should have, if you have people from telephones or tablets, ideally in your pair you need to have one person from a laptop and one person from a tablet or a telephone, just to enable them to do something if it's a task like comment something in the Google document. Another thing, so if you have a small group like 3 people, if you have 3 people in the group, it might be rather, the pace of the lesson might get rather slow. So in this case, I would advise not to have a lot of open group discussions, so not a lot of plenaries, because if you know, in Zoom, so the talking person is the one who can talk louder than the others. So if you can talk louder than the others, then you can express your ideas. Unlike in real life, when we can control this thing. So when you have a group of 3, you can make your lesson more dynamic, but avoid conversations, group discussions, which are longer than like maybe 2-3 minutes. So your students will know that if they haven't said anything within 3-4 minutes or 2-3 minutes, they won't have a chance again. So it can motivate them to speak more. However, can demotivate them too. But if you have hands up, yeah, could work, but also depends on the group. And speaking about hands up, by the way, it's a great way of classroom management. Yeah, so they don't start talking immediately. When you ask a question, they should put their hands up. Absolutely agree. Okay, so don't have open discussions for more than 5 minutes. Never 10-15. Your students in a group of 3 will just fall asleep. Okay, so this is an example of a lesson plan, which I have. It's just a part of it. So, but you can see here that I have all the points included, like aim, sub-aim, the outcomes of the lesson. This is a lesson for B2, outcomes B2. And I plan here my stages and very basic procedure. I plan interaction pattern here. Yeah. So, and I plan people. So at the very beginning, I see how many people I have, and then I might change my plan, or I just take notes during the lesson. I take notes about, again, quality, the internet connection, quality of the sound, and things like that. So it takes time. It has nothing to do with methodology, and we've been taught methodology, and we've been taught different approaches and techniques. But in the end, it all comes to just putting down the names of people with good sound. This is what happens, but unfortunately, this is important at the moment. And also, I write here the tools that I'm going to use in order to turn on the whiteboard at the exact moment, or click the link. Yeah, in this case, it's the link to WordWall. I love it too. I can see some support in the chat. Unfortunately, again, quite often with bad internet connection, using WordWall resulted in complete shutdown of the system. So the lesson just stopped unexpectedly, and I had to waste time starting the conference again and trying to start off the lesson. But WordWall is great, so give it a chance. It's a really helpful tool. Okay, one more thing that I mentioned when we talked about planning was access to homework and lesson materials. Quite often, again, due to technical problems or family problems, when there are more than one person in the family who needs the computer, so I need to make sure that they all have access to the materials. And what I try to do, so I use Google Drive, and I will show you. I use Google Drive, where I put, so I have files for each group. Again, this is an example of my outcomes B2. I have all the files for each day, for each lesson. I have the books here just in case. They all have the paper versions, so we're not breaking the law. But just in case, if they want to refer to it, so this is how they can do it. And I have a folder for each lesson. In this folder, I have the document which we are going to use, so it's a Google Doc, the document which we are going to use at the lesson, the task, and to share this task with my students or with you students, you have here a special button where you need to set the access to your students. So it will be this way, yeah? So you change it. I have it all in Russian. I'm not making my life more difficult. So I don't use applications in English. It's more comfortable for me. So you change it so that your students can access that too. And you work with this document. Why? No, I'm going back. Why do I need this? Because first of all, it saves my time. I have all the materials at one place. My students have access to this, so they know where to find it. They know where to find the homework. If your group agrees, you can record your lessons, and they will have a video there. It takes time, but it's doable, absolutely doable. And they can watch the video again if they've missed something. Also, I have all the links in these folders, the links to the applications we use, to the tasks, the links to, again, Google Docs. If I need something extra, I have the links to all the videos, so all the materials that I used during the lesson. And what's more, in this folder, this is not only the folder for my students, it's also for me. So I open it, and then I can refer to it anytime I need, and I'm not trying to find something on my computer or on my desktop. Okay. So that's the way I organize my lessons. It took me some time to do that, to be honest. I'm not a well-organized person, but now it saves a lot of time. All right, so this is how we get access for our students. So this is also this is what the folder looks from the inside. So I've got the whiteboard, everything we used, everything we did during the lesson. I've got this chat saved with all the words. I usually write the words or phrases in the chat. So everything is here. If the student has missed something, he can refer to this folder. If I don't remember something, I refer to this folder. I also have a plan here, which we can't see at the moment now because I just cut the picture, so we can't see that. And the access to the plan is only for me, and I can refresh what I did. This is my personal Google account. Yes, what I like about it, it's free, unless you want to buy some more space for your materials. But it's absolutely free, and it's absolutely accessible for both teachers and students. And it really adds some system. Also, on Google Drive, as a plan B, I have Google Meets. So sometimes when my Zoom shuts down and it stops working, I usually have a link to Google Meet, and I just write them in the chat if it's a group that, sorry, my Zoom is not working. They go to this folder, they click the link, and we meet at Google Meets. So this is my plan B. This is how I try to have some insurance. And also I add to this folder all the activities which I have in case space is limited. Yeah, space is limited, but you can, all the good things in life are not free. You can buy some more space. All right, so yeah, I add here, yes, I add here, I also have a special document with some plan B emergency activities, and my students know after some time, it doesn't happen instantly, but after some time my students know that if I have some serious technical problems, like I have 5 minutes to reload my computer, for example, they should go to this document and do some activity. The activities are absolutely basic and simple, but I keep them busy, and they have kind of a challenge. So they have some benefits for doing that. I'm going to tell about it a bit later. Well, so as some physical activity, there aren't a lot of things available, but what I prefer to do. So you can see here true and false. So this is how I use my background. I ask my students if it's some kind of a reading activity, for example. So I have true and false here. And my students need basically to move like that if they think it's true. So they move to the true part. If they think it's false, they move to the false part. Well, at least some physical activity works well for children. They can I can ask them to stand up and start jumping from one side to the other. Can be true, false, can be any other kind of question, yes, no, something that can help them move, and something that can also be not just physical, but linguistic. So true, why? False, why? So they move. It's not like the real classroom, but that's at least something. What else do I have here? So these are some activities which I suggest and which I do with my students. So first of all, it's my favorite grammar activity, which is called freeze frames. And this is when I'm not going to demonstrate this, but you are going, I hope you understand the idea. And you can also Google this activity with some videos on the YouTube. So freeze frames, this is the activity when your students need to stand up. You choose one topic. it can be relevant to your lesson or something you would like to revise. Like you said, okay, today we're talking about shopping. You ask your students to stand up. You give them 10 seconds to move a little. Imagine that they are doing shopping. And at some moment you say, freeze. So they freeze in various positions, postures. And one of them will have to guess, yeah, what's happening. So he's buying, I don't know, potatoes. She's choosing the best orange. Or any other topic with any other postures. It is physical. It has some linguistic outcome, so might try it out. Passing the pen is not really physical that much, but you know, when you have a group of students, yeah, they make some kind of a frame, let's put it this way. So what I ask them to do, they all have pens, pencils, whatever, and I ask them to pass their pen to one of the sides, so the person needs to see who the pen is passed to and take it. Obviously, he's not taking the real one, but his own, and pass it to somebody who is probably somewhere down or upwards. So, not sure I actually explained it well. I'm not an actress. I just have no choice. So, but this is something you can do. They can pass something, at least some activity for their neck. So action songs, well, that's the most basic things. Super simple songs, chestnut, Tony Chestnut songs. There's a hilarious old man singing. So also you can do something for, it works with kids, basically. Show me something green. Again, they can. They are surrounded by different things. They can take something and find something like, okay, show me something green. Yeah, my pen is green, my background is green. They need to bring it and show it to you. Another way, it will be more physical, show me something green, and they should actually mime it. So, well, for example, this is supposed to mean pine tree. So it is green, yes, or Christmas tree. They can do it. And then again, we need to guess. So there is more communication involved. And magic tricks, this is a challenge for my teenagers. And this is something they love doing. And sometimes I feel that they only come to the lessons to do this and they don't really care about English. I'm going to try and show you how to do that. So one of the most popular magic tricks with physical activity would be going down a staircase. So they disappear gradually, then they appear. They can demonstrate they are like surfing or doing something like that. It is a bit silly, but okay, we're in the lockdown, so why not? At least they move. Right. The next thing, as you can see, again, this is something that you can do just using what to do with upper intermediate adult learners. Well, we pass the pen, we do the miming thing. Well, my students are okay with miming thing. Sometimes we just have like a break for a minute to stretch, to do some yoga, and that's it. I mean, you can try to make them sing and dance, but, well, if you manage to do that, please send me a letter and a video. I would love to watch that. So speaking about another thing that we can use with Zoom only and which doesn't require a lot of preparation and which can be easily planned, again. So I have this green background, and I know that last time when I had a webinar about task-based learning, people were asking about this thing. So this is a special green background, which helps us create different pictures on it. If you don't have the green one, just make sure your computer is rather far from all the objects around you, so it can also work. Wow, okay. I can see some brilliant ideas. Thank you. That is great. Lovely. Okay. All right. So background. So you can use it to. You have different pictures here. You can use it to warm up. You can use it to create the context of the lesson. I use it also to set this lesson stages. I will tell you how. I use it to demonstrate the target language. So I have it here. I write these words. I create a special slide, special JPEG picture, and JPEG image. And I put them on two sides so they can always refer to these words if it's vocabulary or grammar. I use background as visual prompts, and we use with my students this background to create a challenge or a competition. And I'm going to tell you about the last point before I move back. So we have a challenge that it's again about motivation, and it's something that my students can also do even though they have different level of digital literacy. So I ask them to, the best student of the lesson, judging by, I don't know, the results, the test results, the activity at the lesson, so I choose it somehow. And the best student of the lesson can think of a challenge for the next lesson for the whole group. So the challenge can be to find the most, I don't know, the funniest picture for the background. Just a moment. So the funniest pictures for the background, or find the place which is the most appropriate for, I don't know, filming Star Wars. And for the next lesson, all my students have to prepare a background with an appropriate picture. And we choose the best one. So it's kind of a competition. And for my students, it is motivating. So speaking about background and vocabulary. So you can see here, for example, this picture. What I do, I probably do it, so you can do it in Paint. I do it in PowerPoint. It's easier for me. So I choose the color of the background, which I like, and I put, so I know where I'm sitting, I put two columns of words, for example, that we are going to study. Make sure that you do it, so I don't know how to say it, so you read from right to left, yeah? So when you put it on the background, make sure that it is a mirror image. So it will look differently when you look at it, but your students will see it this way. And I just have these words here, helpful. In this particular case, in the picture on the slide, I use this for example, controlled practice activities. So when I know my students are going to make mistakes, and I'm tired of having different cards with letter S or something. I just showed, okay, there's a mistake. I don't even say anything. So for me, it's a technique of error correction technique. I just demonstrate what they should pay attention to. So it's a bit different from just target vocabulary. It's just something that helps me, and some physical activity for me too. So this is my usual background, and I like it, but initially it was made for setting the context. So we were talking about nature, the hottest place in the world. So this is like the first stage of my lesson. I promised to tell you about the stages. This is the second stage when we have control practice, and I show them something. And the last one, with the sofa, is my way out in case of having 3 students in the group. Because when I have 3 students, or 2 students, and I can't put them in a separate room for obvious reasons, they need to talk to each other and ignore me. I was trying to figure out how to deal with that. The only thing I could come up with, I put this background and I just pretend I'm not there. And it didn't work for the first time and for the second time too, but with some time they got used to that. And now they know that if their teacher is sitting with these carpets on her background, she's ignoring the students and they need to talk to each other. So I'm not going to take part in the conversation at all. They have their question, they have the time limit. Yeah, probably at first they thought I'm a little unusual, but at least it helps me with the staging. Okay, another thing, how you do it, just type some grammar points in your virtual background. Yes, absolutely. I do it in advance on my virtual background. I just take, I make a slide and I type the words there. Then I change it and then I put it on my background. I add it as a background. And this is all I can do. This was actually yesterday's lesson. I added it to this presentation. My students started changing the backgrounds. Zoom can mirror the image too, absolutely. I just don't like the way Zoom does it because I look horrible. Because it also changes the proportions of your face, so be careful with that. My student wasn't behaving well, so I just changed, I put this background, I sat like that, so he had to deal with the witch. Amazingly, after like 2 minutes, he started whining like, oh, please, could you please stop that? I want to see you. And that's just, it was a crazy idea, on the spot idea. Choosing your background, be very careful. Because the picture can be funny, the picture can be thought-provoking, and the picture can play trick on you. So this is my, let's put it this way, issue with the background. So I spent the whole lesson teaching like that, and only after some time I realized what was here. Quite embarrassing. All right, let's move on to some serious things. Speaking about whiteboard, yes, absolutely. It was like, oh my God, how could I have forgotten about that? Picture from my previous webinar, yeah. So this is something I do with whiteboard. I'm sure you do it too. So I try to use Zoom as much as possible. All the options that it offers. For example, this one, the first one was for my upper intermediate group. They had to type their answers. Yeah, they choose the colors. They tell me the colors so that I know who is typing what, and they just remember the phrases and type them next to the definition. The next one was created, so it was on the spot creation about grammar presentation. My student had to figure out the structure. My student had to underline some bits which are important for this grammar structure. So this is what we did with the whiteboard. Another thing that I did with the whiteboard with a student who's actually 8, with 2 students, they had a picture. They looked at the picture for some seconds or for a minute, and I had words. It was a sentence, but the words were in random order. Again, they chose, and this is very simple because they can do it from their tablets at least, so they can draw from the tablets. They had some randomly put words. They needed to make sentences. They needed to join the words and make sentences. Okay. And this is another tool which I like using for short testings or as a lead-in. So Zoom provides a questionnaire, a poll. You need to include, so you need to click this button. You need to create a poll. You need to add some questions with options, and your students will get access to that. And they can complete it. And in this case, it was comprehension. So we watched the video, there was comprehension. So this is another thing we can do in Zoom. Again, not trying to add more applications. But this is another application Is the poll only in paid Zoom? I'm not actually sure, but I'm afraid it is. So I need to check it. I definitely have it in the paid version. But if you don't have a paid Zoom, there's a free online tool for the same purpose. It's called Quizzes. It is similar to Kahoot, but it doesn't have this annoying music. And again, you can have a link to that, and you can create the same type of questionnaire there. So the name is Quizzes. How to make polls not anonymous. There's a tick which you have to get rid of. I'm not sure I can do it. I can tell you right now how to do that, but there's an option. Okay. I've already mentioned my Google Docs file, where I have a lot of emergency activities. This is what I have. Okay, everybody loves the music in Kahoot. Yeah, Google Meet is a platform for conferences, so you can meet there. It's like Zoom, but it doesn't have all the tools that Zoom provides. So you can only talk to each other, you have a chat, and that's it. But in case of emergency, Google Meet is can be really helpful. So if you have, it doesn't have any breakout rooms, so it's basically just for talking. Okay. My ideas for the emergency. So I usually, as I've mentioned, have something in my Google Doc. It can be 1 or 2 activities. Usually it's 1, which I choose for some lesson. It's at the stage of planning. So I spy with my little eye. I have pictures like this. They just they have their 5 minutes while the teacher is trying to figure out how to deal with the technological issues. They go to this document and they might write some sentences about the pictures. They might write down all the objects they see. So it's for some vocabulary revision, and they get some benefits for that. For example, at the end of the lesson, they can challenge someone with the background. So it's just an idea of activity. So different categories. Yeah, I tell them the category. I have the category in the Google Doc. They need to think about things within this category. So some vocabulary revision, or for my students of higher levels, I usually have some difficult questions, as we call them. And these are questions which they can think of, analyze, develop some critical thinking skills. So, and also it is similar to essay writing, where they have to agree or disagree with the question, give 2 reasons and 2 examples. So this is what they do when I am solving my problems with technology. This is what they do when my Zoom shuts down, when I don't have sound, when I don't have, I don't know, video, or something has happened. Yeah. This is about learners' autonomy. So I ask them to go to the Google document, and actually they love when I have 2 different issues with technology, because they can do the task, yes or yeah, absolutely. For fast finishers also. So they go there, they do the task, they get some extra praise for that. So and at the end of the lesson, they can take part in the challenge. So something like that. Yeah. So speaking about stress, we have 3 minutes for stress. Very stressful. We all are stressed at this period of time. But what I would suggest, first of all, methodology should be prior to technology. We are all qualified teachers, and proper planning, proper staging, choosing appropriate materials, and I mean materials not like applications, can help. And you can have great lessons even without a lot of applications. So don't try to put all the applications into the lesson. Don't try to get as much as you can at these difficult times. So just don't add some extra stress to what you're doing. So because, you know, good teacher can overcome a poor choice of technology, but technology can't save bad teaching. So be very careful with that. Don't try to impress anyone. Everybody is stressed, so they don't want to have a lot of applications. They want to have a well-structured lesson when the teacher is confident and relaxed. Plan your time. This is exactly about my Google Docs when I don't need to find materials. Physical activities, yes, and distinguish your social roles. And when I speak about social roles, make sure, I know it might be difficult, but make sure that you do not plan your lesson while you're eating, or you do not plan your lessons while you need to spend quality time with your family. So distinguish these roles. They can stand up with earphones. Trust me, at least stand up is absolutely possible. They can take off their headphones and do some physical activities. So just try. Maybe some minimal activities. It also helps a lot. Think about different, I don't know, special signs, like when they see the teacher is standing like that, they need to put on their earphones and sit back. So doggy picture. Yeah. Okay, so just social roles, please. It prevents professional burnout. Fingers, whatever you like. Aren't you planning to organize a webinar to Zoom options? Again, Yulia, can you please be so kind to send the link, because one of my colleagues has already delivered this webinar and I found it useful. So yeah, I hope that Cambridge Assessment will send it to you. Okay, summing it up. Oh, I have a lot of things to say. Play at least 2 lessons ahead. Test your system. Plan all the technical details. Provide written technical instructions to parents and students. Duplicate as much as possible everywhere. So have a system approach, like Google Drive, for example. Don't panic. Keep calm. It's going to be fine. This too shall pass. Keep it simple. You are great teachers. You don't need to be overwhelmed with technology. Right. This is a list of useful links. These are the applications I use, so cambridge.org, as usual. A lot of materials there. Also, Cambridge University Press has, Cambridge University Press now offers you can now have online versions of Exam Booster, so use this opportunity. How we can treat students, I don't know. What exactly do you mean by treating students? So use Write and Improve, Speak and Improve, some applications. Use Word Kahoot quizzes. Simon the Cat, some videos about this cat. And the last one is Speed Test. So it helps me when I have problems with my internet connection. So it could be a good idea to use it just to make sure that your internet connection is fine. Okay. I have a lot of questions. Let me see what we have. 13 questions. Woohoo! Okay. I will try. So the certificates, you will get the certificates. Just you will probably have to wait a bit because, yeah, there's an overload. Use phones. Phones during the lesson. They can't use interactive tasks on learning gaps. No, they can't mind map and they can't mind. Yes, there's a question. What to do with students who are using their phones? Again, pair them up with someone who is using a laptop. This is the only thing we can do. Or plan your lessons wisely so they won't have to use a lot of applications. Whiteboards. What whiteboard we can use? The one which is integrated into Zoom is a good one. Interactive whiteboard. This is exactly what it's called. So it's free and you can use it. Homework. Yeah, how to check homework. my students send the homework to my Google Docs. So I don't actually check it during the lesson because it takes too much time, absolutely. They send it beforehand or they send it after the lesson if they are too lazy. But I have it all in my Google Docs. I have it all in my Google Drive. They know their folder. They just send it there. No. Homework, yeah, it's too time consuming, so you need to have a system for that. Unfortunately, don't do it during the lesson or do it like okay. Which headphones are you using now? I have no idea. These are some simple ones. Instructions for children and parents how to work in Zoom. I don't have them particularly here in the presentation, sorry. Okay. The certificates, so Yulia, I think you will answer this question. Okay, do we have anything else here? Yes, and one more thing, again, I'm right now out of time. You probably have heard that Cambridge Assessment English is now organizing an event, not an event, some kind of a contest. So if you go to Vkontakte, and you should go to, just a moment, I have everything written down here. So you should go to Vkontakte Cambridge English Project, this is the name. And Yulia will hopefully send you a link now to this contest. So yes, this is the competition. So I like the way people are helping each other in the chat. Super. This is the best part. Great workload and busy teacher alongside having to give feedback. Yes, it does. But if you check their homework during the lesson, you might spend the whole lesson checking the homework. So probably you just pick some random students who you took the homework of, or there's another way you can just there are special websites, and unfortunately I can't remember the name now, but there's a special website which provides phrases for feedback, so you're basically copying it. And you can say that, okay, well done. You don't have to type something, but you can provide quite a long feedback using some pre-made phrases. I don't know if it helps. So think about Cambridge English Project. I think it's a great opportunity for your students. And yes, I guess this is all I wanted to say now. So thank you very much. Thank you for active participation.